Oh, hi everyone. This will be a quick presentation. Just going over Incipit, like just like the things that we'll be going over next meeting, as well as our future plans and our project Parkware. So I'm Narain.
And I'm Shreyang.
Yeah. Let's just go right in.
Yep. So before we begin, just a quick question, rhetorical. Any guesses as to how many tech-related startups fail on a yearly basis? So maybe 5%, maybe 10%, maybe even 20%. That's quite a bit. Well, it turns out that around 90% of all tech startup fails once they start. That's like an insane number. It's real grim out there. But we might just have a solution using Incipit. So what Incipit provides? At Incipit, we have empowering projects that create a real impact in the community and other people's lives. We also have a group selection process with other students in the program, along with connections with mentors like professionals and other people's in fields like computer science and tech-related startup committees that can train you guys in terms of different form of tech committees and like using sort of strategies that they use to start their fellow startups too, and a lot more than that. So about us. So I'm Treyong, and I'm a junior in Panther Creek High School. I have been programming for around 4 years, and I love all things tech. Starting this group was a decision made after seeing the obstacles that people all around me, including myself, have encountered while trying to launch an app or even founding a startup. I really do hope that this group can help you finding mentors, support your initiatives, and making your creative journey as enjoyable and enriching as possible. Contact me on LinkedIn for any questions.
I'm Narain. I'm a junior at RTHS. I've been programming for around 3 years now, and I've been using my skills mainly to complete projects and like app development and recently AI. I like traveling, reading, and practicing martial arts.
So let's hear from you. Oh well, this is the part where it was supposed to be in the sort of insipid sort of intro meeting, but we can skip this part for now.
Okay, so how does founding a startup actually go? So these are just like and we're just like outlining like the project life cycle. This is like the overall life cycle. It doesn't actually have to be like exact, but this is like very common among like any other like startups that you might see. So first we start off with like ideation and brainstorming. So mainly this consists of just like looking at common issues that maybe you face or like members of your family face, and just like researching about them. Maybe that like, your community faces that maybe they post it online and you're able to go and check it out and see what problems they're having and maybe just like potential solutions. And like it doesn't actually have to be a complete solution. If there's a solution like already existing, maybe you can just make that solution better. There might be some like existing gaps, maybe like specific user groups that you want to target. So there's like a wide variety of things that you can actually do. Then next, it's like outlining an MVP. So an MVP is a minimum viable product. So basically, this is a product with enough features to attract early customers and validate a product idea. And so what you want to do is like you don't want to just build something and like top to bottom like come with all the features and eventually figure out that people don't really want what you eventually spend so much time building. You want something that's minimal in design but accomplishes like the like small its purpose in order to like validate the idea, get some feedback, and just like iterate on the product. After this, it's development. So usually there's like websites or mobile apps. I think for non-technical people, then maybe they might what they might not see is that there's front end and back end development that's needed. So front end development is basically the things that like the user actually interacts with. So for example, like the screen switching or maybe something appearing on the screen, or like editing like different like text boxes and all that. But also for especially for most of like the projects that you guys will be completing, there'll also be some backend development, which is basically like the database, getting like retrieving data from database, maybe like if you need to send a message to some other user within the app. Um, so yeah, most likely like you need to know both types of development, but there's also like a variety of tools online, and they're free that you could utilize for development, like process. And after that, there's like occasional checkups that we'll do through Incipit. So we'll just make sure that you're on progress. Maybe you might be able to like outline, make a timeline that we can just like, periodically check over and see if you're, keeping up with that. And yeah, and we'll like, definitely like help you on the way if you get stuck or anything like that. And then there's small skills testing, so which is like reaching out to small groups of users, getting feedback from them, um, like iterating over your product. And yeah, this is very important, kind of tying into the MVP, where you need to build something that customers really want, not just something that you envision maybe would actually help people. And then this last step is not really a requirement, but it's something to really scale up your product or app. And that's like investors in local governments, like reaching out to them. And so many times, like if you need to continue developing app, there's like so many different like areas, like for example like UI UX development that maybe you don't have experience with, just so many like just different obstacles, and sometimes you might need to hire someone, or like maybe it's like marketing and you don't really know how to do that. And it's like it's completely okay because you guys are just like high schoolers in the end, but maybe yeah, to get that money, maybe you may not be able to like supply all of that, and so you need to reach out to people, or maybe have local governments. The good thing about them is that like they're really willing to support young people like you. Yeah, like they're really open to doing so, and also like they'll be able to like integrate your product with like other things that they're like currently doing, and yeah, you can like really see it in action immediately. Okay, so what is our example? Parkware. So kind of what the problem was, it was like an 8-year-old parking issue in our neighborhood. So essentially, there was no street side parking allowed, or you actually get towed. Mainly because they wanted to preserve like the fire lane, just in case if there's a fire at someone's house, they don't want this like the cars blocking any path, like from fire truck like reaching any house. And also we have like small driveways, like most of our houses only have parking spaces. And so like temporary solution at the time was like a huge WhatsApp group. And yeah, basically you would just have like someone say, hey, yeah, it's my son's birthday party, I need like a few like 2 parking spaces this weekend, like anyone willing to help. And then you might have like some other people like chip in and just say, oh yeah, 1 parking space at 219 Beacon Street. And that's kind of usually how the process goes. But the only thing is it gets really disorganized, really, because there's like other unrelated messages. You can't really keep track of exactly who's at your parking space like really easily, like just in case there are like any emergencies. And so yeah, like we kind of found a potential solution that could be like a technical solution solving this problem.
So, for a while making Parkware, we actually went through a lot of back and forth discussion with the town of Morrisville because they really weren't really cooperating that much at first. We went through weeks worth of discussions with them. But really, we only got one consistent message back from them, and that was really just to deal with it. Like, we were supposed to deal with the problem on our own without any sort of help from them. But we can't really do that. It was directly affecting us and our community. It was affecting the size of the events that could be hosted. And people started receiving an alarming number of unwarranted parking tickets. So it really was an unfair situation for everyone involved. But we needed change, and we needed it pretty soon.
Yeah, and so Parkware was born. And so basically, Parkware is an app that allows you to request parking spaces to other nearby users who have like unused driveway space. So, for example, I can go to the app, I can create a request, and for example, if I request 5 parking spaces, and maybe it'll ping people like all around me within the app, and then they can just say, oh, okay, maybe I have that like one space free, maybe at that time period. So I can just click, oh, okay, yeah, I'm an interested provider now. And so those like interested providers fill in for that specific event. And then what you have is like, um, once you have enough people providing the event, and when it's like the event time, you have this event link. And so you can just share that to your guests. And so when they actually arrive at the provider location, they can just click, oh yeah, I'm here, like just to update their status. And when they depart, they just click, like, I left. And so one big thing is like this is decentralized. So there's no like single facility where like the parking is actually occurring. And so like there's, I mean, if it's just at a single location, then certain places will be closer and certain places will be farther, so it would just be like really inconvenient for everyone. And another thing is it's like really efficient, so anyone can choose a driveway that's like really close to them. You don't need to travel um, to like someone else's like parking spot, maybe your friend's parking spot on the other side of the community, and maybe just pick someone that's like very close to you. And then the next thing is like it's scalable. Like it can be expanded to fit entire cities and states and all across the nation that are facing the similar issue of the lack of parking spaces, especially in neighborhoods. There's like many more potential for it, but these three big reasons are why like parkour is so effective. So yeah, what we did, as outlined in like the project lifecycle, is outlining. We first like outlined an MVP. So one thing is this is actually kind of a hard step for newcomers because you really want to do everything. Like you want all the features for your app, and you want to integrate like many like location services and just have like these like APIs and like and all of this. But the thing is that you can't really do everything, and you don't need everything. And so outlining an MVP where like okay, these are the features that I want to develop. Like before even developing, you need to make this MVP, like in like maybe in some document, just like writing down a process map of like maybe how it goes, right? Like what are like the different interactions that occur. Maybe like user sees like the host, and they're able to also maybe like search for different hosts living near them. Like just like really outlining this is like really important, and that's what we did for parkour, and that's what like we really needed before any development occurred, because we need to know like exactly what we need to build. We didn't want to overbuild, we also didn't want to like underbuild. And also many times you kind of underestimate how hard a certain feature is, because many times you might just like spend so much more time debugging the feature instead of like actually building it yourself. So I like the MVP, and one thing we forgot is maybe even having like deadlines of okay, when do I want these features to be done, and immediately like shipping it and just getting some feedback right afterward.
So, and we were building it. So, obviously, coding itself isn't super hard because there are a lot of resources online that you can sort of, you can use to guide you. But making sure it works for your, specific use case and modifying that certain code to fit into your app is pretty hard and time consuming, especially for like, a first time coder. So for, Parkware, we did React Native as the front end. So front end, like we said earlier, is basically what you see when you're using that app. So all the buttons, the UI, and we used Firebase, which is a databasing tool for the backend. So all the sort of information of users, like the emails and phone numbers, went in this sort of database. So obviously we were still in the learning process largely. So we actually programmed the app while learning and documented the progress as we go, which is a good strategy because you can see where you were a while ago, and then you can see where you stand after doing all of that sort of hands-on learning and all that good stuff. So we also use Discord servers, lots of helpful people in those, and Stack Overflow, which is a sort of public forum for coding, and we use GitHub as well, an open source sort of resource to see if we had any issues and see if they could help us. So the easy like the the biggest obstacle for those who don't have prior coding experience is most likely the learning curve. It's a lot at first, but obviously you have to remember that it's a pretty fruitful process. If you learn right and you have the guidance of the right people, it can be pretty effective given very little amount of time. And obviously having a sort of a huge cricket ground next to our house was not a complaint. It was actually a lot of people at first trying to park near the cricket ground so that they had the easiest time walking to it. But what happened was that they parked in our neighborhood, which is a huge inconvenience for everyone. So obviously we thought, why not expand Parkware to have huge companies sort of organizing events that use the app to book sections of unused residential spaces. It's a potential opportunity to capitalize on too.
Okay, so next we did like neighborhood testing. So I think, as I mentioned, we reached out to like a huge WhatsApp group full of like most of the people, most of like the members of the neighborhood. And yeah, basically in the beginning, we didn't have any notifications within the app. So yeah, people wouldn't be paying if there's like a new notification that was close to them, maybe if there's like a new provider interested, or if a guest arrived or departed, or like we didn't have any notifications at all. So we had to manually check and like manually check the app and see like what if like if anyone actually like posted any events, or did any of these features, or completed any of these actions, and just post it onto the group chat. And I just like keep in mind that like this was really time consuming, and it'll definitely be very time consuming for you also. Yeah, make sure like not to shy away, make sure not to like spend so much time automating that process. Like if we maybe spend a lot of time like building up the notifications, maybe like our opportunity, like a timeline was kind of would have been over. And so we need to make sure, like even if it require a lot of manual work and a lot of focus, and just like yeah, just a lot of work in general, we had to kind of get through that, because after that, as we build out these features, like we just don't have to worry about we don't have to worry about it anymore. And yeah, we after getting feedback like from the people, like we had three events that were actually fully organized by Parkware, and we actually found that like Parkware really solved the problem, the parking problems. So we continue to develop. So this is like kind of how we iterated, and we found like we validated our idea, and like we continue to develop it, and we saw potential um, within the app. And so this is like the customer service and support. This is something that many people kind of look over, maybe like, oh, I don't really need to do this. But actually it was like definitely very helpful, because there are some things that you as a developer, or as a founder may just like skip over, maybe because like you just like don't really see it, and because you've been so ingrained in like the idea and the process behind it. So we hosted these things called testathons. And so basically how it worked is like we invited everyone to a single location and got the app installed on everyone's device. Then like everyone would be assigned different user roles, which they would have to test out. So we would give like certain functionalities, like for example, as a event requester, create an event request, maybe delete an event request. Like we just laid out all these functionalities that they needed to test, but we would also allow them to maybe test some new functionalities, like for example, requesting an event in the past. Like theoretic, I mean, practically it should not be possible, but it actually was possible in the app. And so we were able to figure that out and say, be able to like block out that feature. And so we would just like log this all into like a master spreadsheet, and we just analyzed all of this information and just saw where we needed to improve. And yeah, like so we had like this focus group of these select individuals. Most of these people like had no technical experience too, which was actually better, because they thought of ways that maybe us as like developers, or um, people really involved in the app like maybe might never think of. um, and so okay, yeah, and then we did that. We did demo videos. So we made like a product pitch video and a playlist of demo videos, like just to see maybe like show what parkour is all about, and also just lay out like all like the how each feature is actually operated. And this is also very important, because you can't really assume that people will know like right off the bat, like okay, this is how I get this thing working. Especially like if your app isn't as well developed, and so maybe you need to have these videos that like kind of outline how it's done. And then yeah, app stores, this is like pretty much mandatory, like if you're making a mobile app. So you publish to the mobile app on the app and Play Store. This does come with a cost, and yeah, unfortunately you kind of have to deal with that cost. But eventually, like you maybe if you have like a few other teammates working with you, then you might be able to split the cost. And eventually, like if you have like some government or like some investors working behind you, or like supporting you, then they'll be able to like cover that cost too. Okay. So actually, after a point, we weren't actually getting anyone naturally to like trust our app. So this is kind of, so like if people are naturally like using your app, right? Like they're maybe like someone's wanting to host an event, and then they just immediately like think of Parkour and make a request. Like if that actually works, then that's good, because people really see Parkour as like a solution to your problem. And yeah, I mean it was kind of a solution, but it's just not maybe marketed enough, or maybe not established enough for that. And so this is where being a high schooler kind of sucks. Like you just like sometimes you people just don't trust you enough to like trust them with the parking spaces, trust with their parking spaces or your car. And it was actually a big, like pretty big liability issue because we were people responsible if anything happened to someone's car. And maybe you might have these like similar liability issues within your own projects. So yeah, obviously, like being a high schooler, like you don't just get like all the opportunity to do everything, and maybe not the respect either. But that doesn't mean you give up. Like you just have to keep trying.
So obviously we reached out to the mayor afterwards. So we sent him a cold email and got on a call with him. He actually invited us to speak at one of the Smart City Steering Committee meetings, so under the town of Morrisville. So hopefully they'll establish sort of parkware as the standard way of requesting spaces, no matter the neighborhood, because that's sort of what we're going for here. We really don't want to limit ourselves to just one neighborhood. We want this to be a sort of solution that most people can use. And obviously, our project isn't over yet. So we haven't actually really served any cricket grounds nearby or have been completely adopted by any neighborhood. But this has been pretty successful in starting an initiative to solve an ongoing problem. And we'll also have people willing to keep it going, so like the Smart City Committee. And speaking of initiative, that's sort of what you should be going for here. Building an app isn't just about sort of getting your app to be as famous as possible or being as used as possible. It's also about using that as an initiative to almost inspire other people to start apps like similarly of their own, so that more people are benefited by sort of a group effort by everyone in that sort of community. So, what will you do? Well, really, we don't really expect anything out of your projects as of now. Just that you continue and get them to a point where it's at least helping someone and it's being continued by someone. It's a complete learning experience. So, part of this, you will learn the three C's actually. We call them communication, critical thinking, and collaboration. Pivoting is completely fine, and we actually support that. Remember, mistakes are what get us to improve upon what we have currently. So that's always good. And this kind of work also looks really good on a resume, like internships or eventually when you're applying for college. That kind of stuff looks amazing when you're doing those things. So do watch out for that. So, well, thank you so much for watching our video. This part was again for the interest meeting. So, if you guys have any questions, please do reach out to us. And for our next meeting, we will be splitting up into breakout rooms and start transforming, and sort of brainstorming videos or sorry, teams and roles and sort of ideas. So please use this link to see, sort of we can decide when the availability is for most people. But other than that, thank you so much. We really do appreciate your involvement. This is my email. This is Narain's email. And obviously, we have the Discord. So do join our Discord if possible. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.